The city was always cold in the mornings, but that day it felt especially heartless. The air carried the bite of winter's breath, and the streets still slept under a thin layer of frost. Marcus held his coat closed with one hand and rested the other on his son's shoulder as they walked. "Keep your hood up, Jamie," he murmured. The boy nodded, his small hands buried in sleeves too long for him. They'd spent the night behind a bakery, again the same one that tossed out unsold bread on Sundays. The smell of it still clung to their clothes like a memory of kindness. "Where are we going today?" Jamie asked quietly. He always asked that question, even though both of them knew there was rarely an answer. "We'll see what the city gives us," Marcus said. It was something his wife used to say back when they still had walls around them. Jamie nodded, trusting him completely. That trust broke Marcus's heart every time because he wasn't sure he deserved it. He used to provide everything: food, warmth, laughter, music. Now all he could offer was hope, wrapped in promises that felt thinner each day. They stopped near the corner of an old industrial lot. The wind carried the metallic smell of rust and rain. Marcus scanned the ground for scraps of copper wire or aluminum cans. Anything could be worth a few coins. "You check over there, bud," he said, pointing toward a pile of boxes. "But stay where I can see you." Jamie nodded, darting off. He moved carefully, the way a kid learns to survive when home is wherever the night ends. He wasn't afraid anymore, just cautious, like his father. Marcus straightened up, rubbing his sore back. He was 42, but felt older. His hands, once trained to glide over piano keys, were rough and cracked now. Sometimes he stared at them and wondered how something meant for music had become tools for scavenging. Before the world fell apart, he'd played every night in a little jazz bar on the east side. He remembered the sound of clinking glasses, the smell of cigarettes, the dim light that made everyone look softer, kinder. But when the bar closed and the rent rose, life turned silent. And silence, he'd learned, could be the loudest thing in the world. "Dad!" Jamie's voice broke through his thoughts. Marcus turned. The boy stood near a pile of old furniture, waving him over. "You gotta see this," he called. Marcus trudged across the cracked pavement, expecting another piece of junk. "What'd you find this time?" he asked, half smiling. Jamie pointed towards something half covered in plastic. It was tall, wide, and curved at the top. Marcus pulled at the tarp, revealing wood, keys, and disbelief. "No way," he whispered. "Is that what I think it is?" Jamie's eyes widened. "It's a piano." The instrument stood there like a relic, its once shiny surface dulled by years of weather and neglect. Its legs were cracked, one corner splintered, and a spider's web stretched across the fallboard. The white keys were yellow, some missing entirely, but Marcus could see the craftsmanship beneath the damage, the graceful lines, the carved initials, the soul still trapped inside. "Who would throw this away?" he murmured. Jamie stepped closer, his breath fogging in the cold air. "Can it still play?" "Let's find out," Marcus said. He lifted the fallboard carefully, half expecting it to fall apart. The keys sat stiff and uneven. He pressed one, a dull thud, another a weak, hesitant sound, but still a note. "It works," Jamie said, grinning. Marcus smiled back, the first real smile he'd felt in weeks. "Barely," he said, pressing another key. The sound echoed faintly down the alley, soft but alive. For a brief moment, the city around them seemed to pause the hum of traffic. The wind between buildings, everything stopped, just to listen. Jamie giggled. "Play something, Dad." Marcus hesitated. It had been years since he'd touched an instrument. He flexed his fingers, stiff from cold and time, then pressed a few more keys, shaping a clumsy melody. The notes stumbled, uneven and fragile, but still music, still something. "I remember this," Jamie whispered. "Mom used to hum it." Marcus stopped. "Yeah," he said quietly. "She did." For a moment, they stood there in silence. Father, son, and a broken piano, holding the ghost of a song. He wanted to stay there forever, but reality tugged him back. The piano was heavy, far too heavy to move. "We can't take it with us," Marcus said. "So we'll come back," Jamie replied without hesitation. Marcus looked at him, the boy's eyes full of that same unshakable faith that always left him speechless. "Okay," he said. "We'll come back." And for the first time in a long time, he meant it. They returned the next morning, pulling a squeaky cart filled with rags, an old screwdriver, a can of oil, and a small hammer. "You sure about this, Dad?" Jamie asked. "She's been asleep a long time." "Then we'll wake her up gently," Marcus said, kneeling by the pedals. He showed Jamie how to clean between the keys, how to rub oil on the hinges, how to listen for loose strings. The boy worked carefully, tongue sticking out in concentration. "She's gonna sound amazing," he said. "You'll see." Days passed. The alley became their workshop. People stared sometimes, a man and his son hunched over a piano among the trash bins, but most just walked by. A few stopped to watch. One woman even left a thermos of soup beside them without a word. Marcus thanked her with a nod he wasn't sure she saw. Slowly, the piano began to change. The grime lifted, the wood shone faintly in the light, and when Marcus pressed the keys, the sound came clearer, truer. "Hear that?" he said. Jamie grinned. "She's waking up." One evening, the clouds gathered thick above them. The wind turned sharp. "We should cover her," Marcus said. But before they could finish, rain began to fall hard and cold. They pulled the plastic tarp over the piano, but the wind tore it from their hands. "Dad!" Jamie shouted. "She's getting wet!" "Hold on!" Marcus yelled back. Together, they fought the storm, dragging the piano under an awning. By the time it passed, they were soaked through, shivering, but laughing. Marcus pressed a key, and it groaned stubbornly. "Still alive," he whispered. "Just like us." That night, in the shelter, Jamie couldn't stop talking about the piano. "When she's fixed, can you teach me to play?" he asked. Marcus hesitated, then smiled. "If you promise to practice." "I promise." Jamie yawned and curled up under the thin blanket. "Dad? Yeah? Do you think Mom can hear us when we play?" Marcus looked up at the cracked ceiling. "I hope so, buddy. I really do." The next day, Marcus borrowed a small tuning wrench from a mechanic who sometimes let him sweep the shop for cash. "Careful with this," the man said. "Tuning pianos isn't the same as fixing cars." Marcus smiled. "I know." Back at the alley, he showed Jamie how to tighten a string, how to strike the key and listen. "It's like finding the right heartbeat," he explained. "You don't force it, you listen until it sounds true." Jamie nodded, fascinated. "It's like fixing people," he said quietly. Marcus looked at him, surprised. "Yeah," he said softly. "Exactly like that." A week later, the piano was playable. Not perfect, but alive. Marcus sat down, closed his eyes, and began to play a simple tune, something soft, something honest. The sound wasn't clean. The keys clicked and buzzed, but the melody rose anyway, floating through the alley and up into the gray sky. Jamie stood beside him, smiling so wide it hurt. "It's beautiful," he whispered. Marcus laughed. It's music, kiddo. Beauty's extra. He didn't see the small crowd that had gathered near the alley's edge, listening quietly. The first to clap was a woman carrying groceries, then a man with a delivery cart. Soon, 5, then 10 people stood watching, their faces softening in the afternoon light. Marcus stopped, embarrassed. Don't mind us, someone said. Keep playing, Jamie whispered. They like it. Marcus chuckled nervously, then played again, this time louder, stronger. The piano filled the alley, echoing off the brick walls. For a few minutes, the cold city became something else entirely, a place that still had warmth left in it. Afterward, a man from the bakery came out with 2 cups of hot coffee. You're really bringing this street back to life, he said. Marcus smiled. Just trying to fix something broken. Aren't we all? The man said, handing him the cups. From that day on, he started bringing them bread in the evenings. Jamie called him Mr. Muffin. The man didn't mind. The alley turned into their stage. Each day, more people came, workers, students, even a few kids who danced to the rhythm. Someone left a small metal can beside the piano, and by evening, it always had coins in it. Not much, but enough for food and clean socks. Jamie counted the coins every night, eyes bright. We're rich, he'd say. Marcus laughed. We're rich in music, he'd reply. For the first time in years, he didn't feel invisible. One afternoon, Marcus taught Jamie to play his first song, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. His small fingers stumbled, missed notes, but the melody eventually found its way. Perfect, Marcus said. I messed up, Jamie frowned. You made sound, Marcus said gently. That's all music needs, Jamie smiled. Then I'm a musician. You always were, Marcus said. They laughed together, and Marcus realized he hadn't heard his son's laughter echo this freely in years. That night, as the last of the city lights blinked awake, Marcus stood looking at the piano. The wood glowed faintly under the street lamp, worn but proud. You saved us, he whispered. Jamie looked up. What? Marcus smiled. Nothing, kiddo. Just talking to the piano. Jamie giggled. You're weird, Dad. Yeah, Marcus said, putting his arm around him. But we're weird together. The two of them walked back toward the shelter, their breath turning to clouds in the cold air. Behind them, in that narrow alley, the piano waited ready for another day, another song, another chance. The next morning, Marcus and Jamie returned to their piano like it was a friend waiting for them. The cold air nipped at their fingers, but they didn't care. When Marcus played, people stopped again just for a moment, long enough to smile. Some dropped coins in the can, some whispered, "Thank you," and others just stood quietly, letting the music soften their morning rush. Jamie watched them, amazed. They listen like it's magic, he whispered. Marcus smiled. It is magic. Music turns strangers into people. The boy nodded, wrapping his scarf tighter. Then let's keep doing magic, Dad. Soon, they became part of the neighborhood. People began calling Marcus the alley pianist. The bakery man always brought bread. The florist down the block sometimes left flowers on top of the piano. The street, once gray and lifeless, now carried warmth. Jamie helped his dad polish the keys, always careful with his small hands. You think Mom would like this song? He asked one morning. She'd love it, Marcus said softly. She'd say we sound happy again. Jamie smiled. Then I'll play louder. His clumsy notes echoed off the brick walls, and for a while, the city forgot its sadness. Word spread fast. A local shop owner filmed Marcus playing one afternoon and posted it online. By evening, thousands had watched a man and his son, their piano rescued from the trash, filling a forgotten alley with life again. The next day, strangers came from other parts of the city to hear them. Some brought cameras, others just tears. One woman left a note that read, "Your music reminds me of my father." Marcus folded it carefully and tucked it inside his coat pocket. "Looks like we're not the only ones who needed this," he said quietly. Jamie loved performing. He'd sit on a crate beside the piano, tapping along with his hands, pretending to be the drummer. Sometimes he'd hum little tunes while Marcus played. One afternoon, Marcus let him take the lead. The boy's fingers stumbled, but his grin never faded. When he finished, the small crowd clapped. Jamie's face lit up. "They liked it," he laughed. Marcus ruffled his hair. "Of course they did. You played from your heart." The boy looked serious for a moment. "That's how you taught me." Marcus nodded. "That's how your mom taught me too." Life didn't suddenly get easy, but it got lighter. They earned enough from coins and small tips to buy warm clothes, a real meal once a day, and a small room at the shelter they used to visit. For the first time in months, Jamie had a bed. "It's soft," he whispered that night. Marcus smiled. "Don't get too used to it." "Why not?" "Because soft things make you forget how strong you are." Jamie laughed. "Then I'll sleep half soft, half strong." Marcus chuckled. "Deal!" He watched his son drift to sleep, the sound of rain like a lullaby outside. The next morning, the bakery man surprised them. "Got something for you," he said, handing over a wooden stool. "You can't keep sitting on crates." Marcus blinked. "That's kind of you. Kindness spreads," the man said simply. Jamie climbed onto the stool proudly. "Now I look professional," he said. Marcus grinned. "Then we'd better sound professional." Together they played a soft melody that turned every passing head. It was simple, just a tune about mornings and second chances, but it made people stop, listen, and breathe again. The street had music, and the music had them. One afternoon, a man in a gray coat stood watching longer than most. When Marcus finished, he stepped forward. "You play beautifully," he said. "Thank you," Marcus replied. "That piano's been through a lot," the man smiled. "So have you, I imagine." He handed Marcus a card. "I run a cafe not far from here. We host live music every Friday. I'd like you and your boy to play." Marcus hesitated. "We don't have fancy clothes or instruments." The man waved a hand. "You have something better, Hart." He smiled and walked away. Jamie turned to his father. "We're going to be famous." Friday came fast. They pushed the piano through the streets, people helping along the way. Inside the cafe, the lights were warm. The air smelled of coffee and cinnamon. Marcus hadn't played inside a building in years. "You nervous?" Jamie asked. "Terrified," Marcus admitted. "You?" "A little. Good. Means we care." They began with their favorite song, a quiet piece Marcus had written for his wife long ago. The crowd fell silent. Each note shimmered like light across still water. When the last chord faded, the applause felt like a heartbeat surrounding them. After the show, the cafe owner shook Marcus's hand. "You've got something special," he said. People felt that. Jamie beamed. "Can we come back?" "Every week if you want," the man said. That night, walking home, the air felt softer, like the city itself had changed temperature. "We did it," Jamie said, holding his dad's hand. Marcus looked at him, this small, brave boy who never gave up. "No," he said softly. "You did it. You reminded me how to live again." Jamie smiled. "Then we'll never stop playing." The next morning, Marcus found a folded envelope inside their donation can. Inside was a note. "Your music saved me last night. I was going to give up, but I heard your song. Thank you." Tears blurred the words. He showed Jamie. "Dad, someone's life changed because we played?" Marcus nodded slowly. "Music does that." The boy hugged him tight. "Then we'll keep playing for everyone who needs saving." "That's a big job," Marcus said. Jamie grinned. "We've got big hearts." Marcus laughed, brushing his son's hair from his eyes. "Yeah, we do." More invitations followed, a small art gallery, a school fundraiser, even the library downtown. Marcus always said yes, as long as Jamie could come too. They didn't play for money anymore. They played for connection. Every time they performed, someone cried, someone smiled, someone remembered something good. The broken piano, once left to rot, became a symbol of what could be mended. People started calling it the Hope Piano. Jamie liked that. "It's like a superhero name," he said proudly. Marcus laughed. "Yeah, only this hero uses music instead of a cape." One day, Clara, the violin teacher who'd once offered them a music room, returned. "I heard what you've done," she said warmly. "Would you consider teaching here at the community center?" Marcus blinked. "Teaching? Yes. Kids who can't afford lessons. We have instruments, but no one to show them love." Jamie's eyes widened. "We can teach kids?" "We can try," Marcus said softly. "Maybe that's what this was all for." Clara smiled. "Then the room's yours. Same piano, same key, just new songs waiting." The music room smelled of dust, chalk, and possibilities. Jamie helped clean the shelves, while Marcus tuned the piano once more. "You know," Marcus said, "I used to dream of teaching." "So your dream came true," Jamie said. "Kind of," Marcus replied. "Except now, it means more." The first class came the next week. 6 kids, some shy, some loud, all curious. Marcus showed them how to find middle C, how to feel rhythm, how to let music speak when words couldn't. "No one here's broken," he said. "We're just learning new songs." Jamie quickly became their favorite helper. He'd sit beside younger kids, guiding their small fingers with patience far beyond his age. "You're a natural," Clara told him once. "That's because I've got the best teacher," Jamie said proudly, nodding toward his father. Marcus just smiled. Watching his son surrounded by laughter and sound made something in him heal. For the first time, he didn't feel like they were surviving. They were living. And through music, they were giving others that same chance. The alley still waited for them on weekends. They never abandoned the spot where it all began. The bakery man still waved every morning, still left bread, still called them family. Sometimes, passers-by asked, "Why play here when you have stages now?" Marcus always answered the same way. "Because this is where hope started. You don't forget the place that gave you your first note." Jamie nodded each time, understanding more than his father realized. The alley was their first audience, their first stage, their first miracle. Winter returned, but this year wasn't cruel. The community center kept them warm. The bakery still fed them. They weren't rich, but they were known, respected, loved. On Christmas Eve, they played a small concert for the neighborhood. The piano gleamed under twinkling lights, and Jamie wore a red scarf someone had knitted for him. They began with Silent Night, the notes floating like snowflakes in the still air. When they finished, the crowd rose to their feet. Marcus whispered, "She would have loved this, you know." Jamie nodded. "I know, Dad." After the concert, a woman approached holding a small velvet bag. "This belonged to my father," she said, handing it to Marcus. Inside was a golden tuning key. He used to say, "Every piano has a soul. You just have to listen." I think he would have liked what you're doing. Marcus felt his throat tighten. "Thank you," he said softly. That night, he placed the key above the piano at the community center. It shone faintly in the lamplight, a quiet reminder that every broken thing could find its tune again. Spring brought new faces, new songs, and laughter that filled the hallways. The kids painted a sign for their classroom, the Hope Room. Marcus smiled when he saw it. "Looks like our name's spreading," Jamie grinned. "It's better than the piano guys." Marcus chuckled. "Yeah, a little more heart. Every Friday, they still played at the cafe. The same crowd, same smell of cinnamon and coffee, same applause that felt like home. But this time, Marcus didn't play to survive, he played to give. And giving, he discovered, was what made life sound whole again. One afternoon, as the sun set through the tall windows, Marcus sat alone at the piano. The room was empty, but the air felt alive with echoes. He closed his eyes and played the same tune he'd played the first day he found the instrument broken, hesitant, full of love. The sound was different now, stronger, clearer. He thought about the alley, the cold mornings, the strangers who'd stopped to listen. "We made it," he whispered. Then from the doorway, Jamie's voice. "We're still making it," Marcus smiled. "Yeah, kid, we always will." That night, they walked home together through the quiet streets. The city lights shimmered off puddles, turning everything golden. "Dad," Jamie said softly, "do you think we'll ever stop playing?" Marcus shook his head. "Not until the music does." Jamie grinned. "Then we'll play forever." Marcus looked down at him, eyes warm. "Forever sounds good." Behind them, faintly through the open windows of the center, the piano still sang a song born in an alley, carried by love, and kept alive by two souls who believe that even from the trash, beauty can rise again. The morning sun spilled through the tall windows of the community center. Dust floated in golden beams, dancing to the echo of the piano. Marcus played softly, eyes half closed, letting the melody wander wherever it wanted. Jamie sat nearby, sketching on a piece of paper a rough drawing of their alley, their piano, and a small sign that said, "Hope." "It's us," he said proudly. Marcus smiled. "Looks perfect." "It's not perfect," Jamie said, "but it feels right." Marcus nodded. That's all music ever needs to do, feel right. Their small music room had grown famous. Families stopped by to listen. Children ran down the halls humming tunes they learned from Jamie, and volunteers came to help repaint the walls. Clara often said, "This room used to echo with emptiness. Now it sings with life." Marcus always smiled at that. He never got tired of hearing people call it the Hope Room. "Do you think we can open another one someday?" Jamie asked. "Maybe in another city?" "Maybe," Marcus said softly. "But first, let's make sure this one keeps shining." A month later, a journalist visited the community center. She'd heard about the homeless pianist who turned an alley into a stage. Marcus wasn't used to cameras or microphones. He spoke quietly, carefully, never trying to sound like a hero. "I didn't fix the world," he said. "I just fixed a piano. The rest fixed itself." Jamie sat beside him, feet swinging above the floor. "Can I say something?" he asked the reporter. She smiled. "Of course." "My dad says music is like light," Jamie said. "If you play it for others, it never runs out." Is ready. The article went viral. Photos of Marcus and Jamie standing beside their old piano spread online, father and son smiling in a sunlit alley. Comments poured in from everywhere. I cried watching this. They reminded me that kindness still exists. I used to play. Maybe I'll start again. Donations arrived for the community center, new instruments, funds for classes, even a van for outreach. Marcus stared at the screen in disbelief. All this from one broken piano, he whispered. Jamie grinned. Guess the world heard our song. Soon, the center invited other musicians who'd once been homeless or struggling. Together, they started the Second Chance Orchestra. It wasn't big, just a handful of people with stories written in scars and smiles. But when they played, the sound carried a truth no concert hall could match. Marcus led them gently, never like a conductor, always like a friend. We don't play to impress, he told them. We play to remember. The audience didn't just clap, they cried. Because in every note, they could hear survival, forgiveness, and grace. Jamie joined too, sitting at the side with his small keyboard. His music was lighter, brighter, full of the wonder that Marcus thought he'd lost long ago. After every show, people came to thank them. One man said, "I haven't spoken to my brother in 10 years. Your song made me call him." Another said, "I was ready to give up. Then I heard you play." Marcus never knew what to say to that. He just smiled and said, "We're all just tuning ourselves, one note at a time." The mayor visited the center that summer. Cameras flashed as he shook Marcus's hand. "You turned a forgotten corner of our city into something beautiful," he said. "You've reminded us that art can heal." Marcus only smiled, uncomfortable with the attention. "I didn't plan any of this," he said. "I just didn't want my son to forget what music sounds like." The mayor laughed softly. "Well, you gave it back to all of us." Jamie tugged at Marcus's sleeve. "Dad, do you think Mom can see all this?" Marcus's eyes softened. "I think she's been listening the whole time." One morning, Clara rushed in, holding an envelope. "You've been invited," she said breathlessly. Inside was a letter from a National Music Foundation. They wanted Marcus and Jamie to perform at a charity concert in the capital. "Us?" Marcus asked, stunned. "They saw the video," Clara said. "They want your story told in music." Jamie jumped up and down. "We're going on a trip." Marcus smiled nervously. "Guess we are." That night, he lay awake, staring at the ceiling. He wasn't afraid of performing. He was afraid of leaving the place that had given them everything. The city looked different from the train window, not cruel or gray anymore, just vast and full of stories. Jamie pressed his face to the glass. "It's so big," Marcus laughed. "It always was. We just couldn't see it before." They arrived 2 days before the concert. The venue was enormous velvet seats, grand chandeliers, polished floors that gleamed like mirrors. Marcus ran his fingers across the stage piano. It was perfect, too perfect. "You okay, Dad?" Jamie asked. Marcus exhaled. "Yeah, just trying to remember how far we've come." On the night of the concert, the hall filled with hundreds of people, journalists, musicians, families, strangers. The host introduced them simply, a father and son who turned brokenness into beauty. Marcus took his seat, Jamie beside him. For a moment, the crowd disappeared. It was just the two of them again, like in that cold alley years ago. Marcus whispered, "Ready?" Jamie nodded. "Always." Their fingers moved together the same song they'd played when no one was watching. The same notes that once warmed their frozen hands now lit an entire room. When the last note faded, silence hung heavy for a heartbeat, then applause erupted, rising like a wave. Marcus blinked back tears. Jamie grinned from ear to ear. People stood, clapping, cheering. The host stepped forward, eyes shining. "Thank you," she said. You've reminded us that music isn't luxury, it's survival." After the concert, strangers hugged them, some crying openly. A woman whispered, "That song saved me." Marcus didn't know how to answer. He just held her hand and said, "It saved me too." The next morning, Marcus and Jamie returned home to find the community center decorated with banners and flowers. "Welcome back, heroes," the kids shouted. Clara hugged them both. "You've made us proud," she said. "Now you can finally rest." Marcus smiled. "Rest? No chance. We've got lessons to teach," Jamie laughed, "and muffins to eat." The bakery man waved from the doorway, holding a tray. "Fresh ones, as always." The world hadn't turned rich or perfect, but it had turned kind, and that was more than Marcus ever dreamed of. Over the next few months, the Second Chance Orchestra grew. More people joined a guitarist who'd once lived in his car, a cellist who'd lost her husband, a trumpet player rebuilding his life after prison. Each brought their story, their scars, and their song. Together, they made music that couldn't be rehearsed, it had to be felt. Every concert ended the same way, with tears, hugs, and the sound of hope lingering in the air like perfume. Marcus often thought, maybe this is what heaven sounds like. One evening, Jamie sat by the piano long after everyone left. He played softly, lost in his thoughts. Marcus watched quietly. "You've gotten good," he said. "Better than me soon." Jamie smiled. "You think so?" "I know so." Jamie stopped playing. "Dad, do you ever miss the old days, before everything happened?" Marcus thought for a moment. "Sometimes. But if those days hadn't ended, we never would have found this piano, or these people." Jamie nodded. "So losing things can be good?" "It can be the start of something better," Marcus said. The alley where it all began became something of a landmark. People painted murals of pianos, hearts, and hands holding keys. The city installed benches nearby, with plaques that read, "Where the music of hope began." Marcus didn't go there often, not because he didn't care, but because he didn't need to. The song had moved on. One afternoon, he did visit, though, just to sit quietly. He ran his hand over the plaque and whispered, "Thank you for finding us when we were lost." One spring morning, a letter arrived from a small town 2 states away. A teacher wrote, "Your story inspired our students. We built our own hope room. Kids who never spoke now sing." Attached was a photo, children standing around a piano, smiling. Marcus showed Jamie. "We started something bigger than us," he said. "Does that make us famous?" Jamie asked. Marcus chuckled. "No, it makes us responsible. We've got to keep the song alive." Jamie nodded seriously. "Then let's write a new one." They began composing together every evening, father shaping melodies, son filling them with light. The new song was about beginnings, a quiet piece that built slowly into something joyful. They called it "The Road Back Home." When they played it for the community center, everyone fell silent. Clara wiped her eyes. "It sounds like sunrise," she whispered. Marcus smiled. "That's what it felt like when we found that piano." Jamie nodded. "It's our story, but it can belong to anyone." Their compositions spread like their first song once did. Schools performed it, orchestras adapted it, people recorded it on phones and shared it online. Marcus didn't care about fame, he cared about the message. "Music is proof that broken things can still make harmony," he told an interviewer. "That's all I want people to remember." Jamie listened proudly beside him. "You forgot something, Dad," he said. "What's that?" "You also taught me that love is the best instrument." Marcus laughed softly. "Yeah, that one doesn't go out of tune." Years passed. The wrinkles on Marcus's face deepened, but so did the warmth in his eyes. Jamie grew taller, his hands stronger, his music more confident. He started teaching too, not for money, but for meaning. Every note you play is a promise, he told his students. A promise that you'll try again tomorrow. Marcus often sat quietly at the back of the room, listening, proud beyond words. He had dreamed of raising a musician. Instead, he had raised a healer. One autumn evening, Marcus felt tired. Not sick, just old. He sat by the piano, the same one they'd rescued so long ago, now restored and gleaming. Jamie joined him, playing softly. "Remember the first time we found her?" Marcus smiled. "How could I forget? You were freezing. I was hopeless. And this piano, well, she was our miracle. You think she still remembers?" Jamie asked. "Every note," Marcus said. He placed a hand on the wood. "She remembers the hands that believed in her." Winter came again, gentle and white. The community center held a holiday concert smaller than before, but full of heart. Marcus led his students, while Jamie played lead piano. When the final song ended, everyone stood, clapping and crying. Clara whispered, "It's never just about the music, is it?" Marcus shook his head. "No, it's about the people who find themselves inside it." That night, as snow fell outside, Marcus sat alone for a while. The silence felt warm, not empty. He smiled and whispered, "Thank you, old friend," to the piano. The next morning, Jamie found his father sitting peacefully by the piano, eyes closed, a faint smile on his face. The music book still open to the road back home. Marcus was gone quietly, like a note fading at the end of a song. Jamie didn't cry at first. He just sat beside him, resting his small hand on his father's. "You finished your song," he whispered. Outside, sunlight streamed through the window, and for a moment it looked as though the room itself was bowing to him. The funeral was simple, held in the same hall where they'd once taught. People from across the city came, students, strangers, the bakery man, Clara, the mayor, musicians, children. No one wore black. Jamie had asked them not to. "Dad said music isn't about endings," he explained. "It's about what keeps playing after." At the front of the room sat their piano, a single flower resting on its keys. When the service ended, Jamie played Clair de Lune, the song his father had played the very first day they'd found the instrument. The sound filled the room with something more powerful than grief, gratitude. When the final note faded, no one spoke. They just stood, listening to the silence his father had left behind. Later, Clara approached Jamie. "What will you do now?" He looked at the piano and smiled softly. "Keep teaching, keep playing, keep the song alive." She nodded. "He'd like that." Jamie touched the piano once more. "He never really left," he said. "He just became the music." The years moved on, but the story never faded. People still visited the Hope Room, now renamed the Marcus Hall of Music. A plaque by the door read, "Dedicated to the man who found beauty in the broken and to the boy who helped him share it." Jamie, now grown, played for new generations, always starting with the same song. "My dad found this piano in the trash," he'd say. "He said it wasn't broken, just waiting for someone to believe in it." Turns out, he was right. One afternoon, after class, Jamie returned to the alley where it all began. The buildings looked smaller, older, but the feeling remained. He sat on the same cracked curb, listening to the distant hum of the city. "Hey, Dad," he whispered. "It's still working. People are still listening. The wind moved gently through the alley, almost like an answer. He smiled. Yeah, I know. You told me once, songs don't end. They just find new ears. Before leaving, Jamie placed a small wooden carving on the ground. A piano, hand-shaped, painted gold. For you? He said softly. For everything. Then he turned toward home, where the next class was waiting. Behind him, sunlight broke through the clouds, landing right where the carving lay, making it shine as though it were alive. That night, Jamie returned to the community center. The building was quiet, the piano waiting. He sat down and closed his eyes. His hands found the keys easily, they always did. He began to play The Road Back Home. The room filled with sound, soft and steady, full of every laugh, tear, and moment they'd ever shared. Outside, the wind carried the music through the streets, past the bakery, through the alley, and into the city, the same one that had once turned its back, now listening again. As he played, Jamie thought about everyone their music had touched, the children who learned to believe again, the strangers who found courage, the families that healed. He realized that music wasn't something his father left behind. It was something he'd planted, and like every good seed, it grew quietly, faithfully, endlessly. Jamie smiled through his tears. "We did it, Dad," he whispered. The song found everyone. Outside, night settled over the city. The lights reflected in puddles, glowing like notes on invisible sheet music. In the Hope Room, the piano kept playing, the melody gentle but sure. It wasn't just one man's song anymore. It was a living promise carried by a son, by strangers, by everyone who'd ever stopped to listen. And though Marcus was gone, his music remained, echoing softly through every street and every heart that had once forgotten how to hope. The world, at last, was in tune again.